So why don't we start with that? England lifting all legal restrictions on Monday, but infection rates are, as we've been discussing, at their highest level since January. Are we doing the right thing, do you think?
Well, I'm not sure, and I'm not quite clear as to why the whole process is being presented as you just did. Why on earth is it being called Freedom Day? I mean, the reality is that there's a very nasty pandemic underway, which is extremely active within the UK. Thanks to brilliant science and really good work by the National Health Service in the UK, an awful lot of British people have been vaccinated. So although there are a lot of cases in the UK per day, up in the 40,000s, there are mercifully at the moment quite few deaths. But this is a very rapidly changing situation. It's thoroughly dangerous, and I think no one, at least who's a specialist in public health, would be wanting to encourage an attitude by those in authority that suggests that somehow the problem is solved.
So do you think it's a reckless thing to do in the circumstances?
Well, I'm never going to use that sort of language. You see, I do agree with the general statement that humanity is going to have to work out how to live with this virus. And my reason for saying that is that my own view is the virus is going to be around for quite a long time. There's no sign that it's going to just disappear. And indeed, it has a habit of mutating, and some of the mutants appear to be nastier than the original virus. So it's going to be around. And it is a nasty virus. I mean, if you've got diabetes, if you've got heart disease, if you are my sort of age in the 70s, if you get this virus and you haven't been vaccinated, you've got a high likelihood of being seriously ill and even dying. So it's not good.
Well, that's the question. I mean, that's the question where the issue on which I think the government, and if you believe what they said the other day, the scientists would differ with you, because they say this link between the infection and serious illness and hospitalisation and certainly death, they would say. They say that's been severely weakened. Are you less sure about that?
No, it has been weakened, and I'm delighted. I mean, that's why the reduction in restrictions is thinkable in the UK. The fact is that it's about 40,000 cases are not associated with anything like the level of severe illness or death that we saw at the beginning of the year. It's a remarkable improvement. But just hear this, Mark. About 1 in 20 people who get infected with this virus have a really unpleasant long illness. It can go on for at least 3 months, perhaps 6 months. And it's not a trivial illness. In some, it's associated with inflammation of the membrane around your heart. In others, it's associated with problems in your head. Other people get long-term difficulties with moving around with their arms and legs. Several that I know have difficulty with concentrating. They say that they're sitting and working normally and suddenly their brain goes to complete mush. 1 in 20. Now, yesterday there were, I think, 40,000 people diagnosed positive with COVID in the UK. 40,000. 1 in 20 of those is going to end up with long COVID.
Well, is that right? Even if they've been double vaccinated, I mean, that's the point the government's making, that our very high rate of vaccination is where we are different. And the argument they put is, if not now, when? Because they say if you leave it and delay, then we're into autumn and we're into winter and all the other problems that the NHS will have to deal with.
Yeah, so Mark, I accept all that, and I want to go back and say to you again that the last thing I would want is for society to go into further restrictions. I hate it. I think that it undermines life for so many people, particularly poorer people on low incomes, if they are asked to stay at home. So my approach to dealing with COVID is not to say oh, well, if there's virus around, then we've all got to stop moving, we've all got to stop working. No, I'm saying we need to be able to work, to be able to have fun, but at the same time, we need to keep this virus at bay and not let it get in. And to do that, there are two things. One is we have to behave in ways that make it pretty unlikely for this virus to spread around, because we're the solution. The virus is the problem, and we are the force that's going to deal with it. Secondly, I think that we really need to be sure that public health services are able to detect people with the disease, to make sure they isolate, to find their contacts and make sure they isolate. Those are the two things that I'm asking every single country in the world to do. Make sure your people know how to prevent it and get the public health right.
So you wouldn't then be lifting these legal restrictions on social distancing or on masks in crowded indoor places and on public transport. You would keep those as legally backed restrictions, would you?
I would. But you see, I have been saying to myself that perhaps there are things that the British government and their experts know that I don't know, and that therefore mean that whatever comment I make is just not relevant. There must be some extra factor that the UK has at its disposal to want to be actually advising people that they don't need to face mask or distance.
Well,
just at a time when we're at about 40,000 cases a day.
Well, I mean, I've put to you the arguments that they are putting. What else could it be, do you think, then, that they know that?
Don't know. I mean, I need to go on and trying to find out. But where I am in the border between France and Switzerland, I talked a lot to the public health people here, and I've obviously been close to the decisions that are made, and they are taking the current tendency for increase. They've not got quite as high figures as the UK has got, but they're taking it really seriously.
Yeah, but so what the government's saying, sorry to interrupt you, we're struggling for time. What the government's saying is that they're going to leave it now to individual responsibility, that there's social responsibility, and you know, they're going to trust the public, in other words.
Well, I'm super keen on that, and I've always said that's what we need to move towards. But it does help ordinary people like me and you if those in authority give us pretty consistent guidance as to what to do. But if you have a cabinet running a country and you've got some in the cabinet saying, well, I might wear a mask sometimes, but I'll make up my mind and see closer to the time. And you've got others going to say, well, I'm not going to wear my mask at all. I want to get rid of it. And still a third group who say, no, I'm going to be very cautious and keep my mask. There's something wrong, because either we've learned about this virus and how it behaves over the last 18 months, and we've learned enough to know what everybody should do and shouldn't do, or there's nothing to learn. And I would say, Mark, that there's a lot to learn. And I would expect a government to have a concerted approach to what to do and to make sure that everybody follows that approach. Whether it's legal or non-legal, let's at least get consistency, because humans are great if they're given consistent advice. But basically, if they're given inconsistent advice, they say, well, if those lot don't know what to do, why should I pay any attention to them?